guys, Sammy here with part 2 of creating lineless digital art in Clip Studio Paint. That is a long title. Anyway, in the previous episode I showed you guys how I created lineless art using lineless flat colors with using a combination of vector and raster layers. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link somewhere around the video and in the description down below. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm getting ready to add the tone, and what I like to do with that is I go down and I keep my flat colors in a separate folder and then my tone in another folder, and I usually work with a few different layers for each section of the picture that I'm doing. So with skin I have about 4 or 5 layers, you know, and so on and so forth. You don't have to do this if you are comfortable. If you're new to digital art, you might want to start with 1 or 2 layers for each thing. This is just how I work. So what I do is I turn down the opacity of my flats just so I can see my sketch underneath, and then I go and make a layer for the skin. Now I keep my colors somewhere around my canvas. In this case it's on the left hand side of the canvas, just above her hair, and I just like to pre-select a few colors. There's no rhyme or reason to what I use, like how I select colors. I just it's kind of intuitive, and I don't necessarily keep those colors because sometimes they don't look right, which is what I did with the purple in this case. So then I go and I select my transparent watercolor brush and I start adding the color. And then the great thing about the transparent watercolor brush, depending on how hard you press on the pen, will determine how much color comes out. And the great thing about it is you can use the brush to also blend out and soften parts. If you do something too harsh, you just go back over it and kind of soften it. It definitely takes some getting used to, and I highly recommend experimenting with all the brushes because I think Clip Studio Paint has a lot of great brushes. Now I pre-recorded this just so I could talk a little bit easier, and I thought I'd slow it down and then speed it up in parts and just talk a little bit more. So for some reason I didn't get the cleaning up part, but I'll explain to you how I do that after I go through this little bit, which will be in a second. So when I start laying color down slowly, and then when I'm happy I'll go back and I'll add more. I'll add a bit more tone with the one color, and then I'll soften it out, and when I'm happy with that I'll go into the next color, and then I create another layer for the next color. And then when I've done all that, what I like to do is, because it's a big old mess, because it's gone in on top of the hair and the clothes and things like that, I go back to the flats and I deselect the skin, and then I select all the parts where I don't want the skin colors to be, and then I go and clean it. And then I go and delete it. And if you just select the tone folder, you can just press delete and it'll delete the sections of tone that you have selected, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that's basically it. It's not really complicated. What I might do after this is I might speed it up and then talk a little bit about the hair, because I did something a little bit different with the hair. So I also tried I colored this a little bit differently to how I normally color. I wanted it to be really soft, and I find that I do overdo it sometimes with the shading. So I actually really like how this piece is turning out at the moment, and I think you guys should stay tuned to see how it turns out. So what I'll do is I'll go speed it up, and I'll be back in a little while. So I am back, and I just, because I didn't hit record for some reason when I was doing her skin, the last little bits of her skin, I thought I'd quickly go over how I did that. So for her blush on her nose and her cheeks, I just used the spray can tool, and I just selected the shadow one and just lightly sprayed over the cheeks using my mouse rather than my pen, and then I deepened it up again in parts where I felt like it needed it. And then for the highlights, I just used like a yellow, and I went back to my transparent watercolor brush, which is what I'm using to color her hair as well. So I use the transparent watercolor brush to color everything. Like I said, I want to experiment a little in the future, so stay tuned for that maybe. But if you want a like in-depth tutorial on how I do skin, feel free to let me know. I'm not sure if anyone wants to see it. I am by no means an expert, but I thought I'd quickly talk over the talk a little bit about the hair, because I did something a little bit different than what I normally do. So for the hair, I created the depth that I wanted with the transparent brush and watercolor brush, and I used layers and layers to do the hair how I like, with the lines, and how I wanted the lines to go, and how I wanted it to flow. But because the hair was a bit too light, I still wanted a little bit of that brown to show through, but I also wanted to be quite black in some areas. I decided to make an extra layer and put the gradient, played around with the gradient over the top, and that is pretty much how I did the hair. And then I just made another layer to put the highlights over the top, just so I could bring some of the back some of that movement. And that is pretty much how I colored Pocahontas. So I'm going to finish this piece up, and I will be back at the end of the video to wrap things up. So stay tuned. So I am back, and that is how I create a digital lineless artwork in Clip Studio Paint. I hope you enjoyed these 2 videos. Again, if you want to check out part 1, there will be a link in the description below, and links to all my social media will be down below. Sorry it has taken a little while. This is future me talking, to upload this video. Just the new year kind of got away with me, but I'm back. I'm hopefully going to make regular content. I have a few projects that I am either working on or about to start, so I'm really excited to see where this year takes me. So yeah, social media will be down in the description below. My Society 6, which I haven't uploaded anything on recently, will be down below. I'm still seriously thinking about switching to Redbubble, but we'll see what happens. I'm also hopefully maybe reopening my store, Envy Store, in the future. And I'll be fixing up commissions. I'm gonna get into that this year, hopefully try and get into that. And what else? I think that's pretty much it from me. I really like how this piece turned out. I want to get back into practicing coloring because I really love coloring, and I really like the subtlety of this piece. I normally get a bit heavy-handed and overdo it with shadowing. But yeah, I really like how this turned out. And for the background, I just did a simple little gradient and use some of the texture tools that are provided by Clip Studio Paint. I think I had to download the clouds, if you can see them. And the feathers are just a paintbrush that I use over here, called Decoration. And there's a bunch of different ones, and I think it was Natural that I used. So that is it from me. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll hopefully talk to you all very, very soon. Bye!